In mathematics, there is what we call a vulgar fraction. It is a vulgar fraction because there's a number at the bottom and a number at the top. The number at the bottom is a denominator, and the number at the top is an enumerator. And just like other vulgarities in real life, Mr. Speaker, the number at the bottom is very powerful because it represents the entire population. The question for us to consider today, in this vulgar fraction of Nyamira, what is the denominator? What is the total population of members of county assembly to whom the percentages and fractions can be applied? Mr. Speaker, once we sort that out, this situation in Nyamira will no longer be vulgar. It will be pretty clear on whether we can proceed or not. Senator Boni Khalwale raised a very important example. When our brother Cheptumo was away, the threshold, the 50% threshold remained 24. It introduced to 23. There was a time, Mr. Speaker, when we were cooking up some motion to push you to declare our side, the majority side. The time when Wetangula resigned to be the Speaker of the National Assembly, the time that Murkomen left to join the cabinet, and Soipan Tuya. And when we looked at the maths and whatever had been lodged with the registrar of political parties, it would appear that our side, therefore, at that instant, was a majority side. But then we talked to legal experts. They told us that the denominator, that number at the bottom, must be 67, and it is not a moving target. Mr. Speaker, there was a time also in this House when we were passing the Electoral Laws Amendment Bill. It was very contentious. We only needed one vote. And I thank God, Mr. Speaker, that the government did not resort to trying to play around. But that vote was from the Kisii delegation. Then the senator was Senator Chris Obure. But there was a member of that delegation called Senator Jose Onchwangi. He was sought and found somewhere in River Road, and he came to this house panting, and he cast a vote, and the election amendment laws were passed. When we were fighting over the formula in the last parliament, Mr. Speaker, it would have been easy for the government to reduce the denominator so that the two-thirds could be achieved. But they realized that that was going to be dangerous. And so the government of the day resorted to intimidation of Senators Lelegwe, Senators Lagat, and Senator Malala, even though Senator Malala was a willing accomplice. Mr. Speaker, if we can sort out this thing of denominator, we will have clarity. But there is a problem in Nyamira, which we must agree on, even as we discuss this PO. This is not the first time we are debating a matter with regards to Nyamira on the floor of this House, be it in the Devolution Committee, be it in the Public Accounts Committee. And we also take judicial notice, Mr. Speaker, that there have been several attempts to have this motion come to this House. Whereas I congratulate the members of the County Assembly, whichever direction this matter will take, for playing their oversight role, but we must also call them out. The County Assembly of Nyamira is split right in the middle. The people of Nyamira are not getting the services that they deserve. Nyamira County, sitting in the League of Counties, will be at the bottom. While other counties are making progress, they are busy in fighting. Mr. Speaker, this Senate will stand for the Constitution, will protect the weak, and will make sure that we provide justice to everybody. But Mr. Speaker, looking at the conversation and perhaps even the public interest in this matter, I will perhaps invite you to consider invoking Standing Order number 66.3 on deferring putting the question until a later time. I mean, the Standing Order allows you. There's nothing that says that this motion must be voted upon at this present moment, because Standing Order 66, it is becoming a problem. Impeachment after impeachment, people come here and disown the affidavits. The only way to catch them is to proceed into full trial and ensure that someone is taken into custody for perjury. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Senator Mrango.
And if it votes to defeat the PO, which for practical purposes is turning out to be an application, not a pure PO, because if you listened to the county assembly, they disputed the facts that required a hearing. Much as we may not agree, what I look at, Mr. Speaker, there are two issues which are being conflated. There's the question of quorum. When is a house quorate to conduct business? And there is a house of threshold when voting. So the question of what vacancies can only affect a quorum of a house. In a situation whereby, assuming somebody, we are living in days when people are being abducted. If we had a serious motion on the floor of this house and half the house was 24 senators were abducted and 23 that remained, they will still have the quorum to conduct business, the 23, but the threshold that there should be a supermajority which would require 33 senators would have that motion automatically defeated. So I think we have confused the question of quorum and the question of the threshold to be achieved. And where there's no requirement for a supermajority, like in this house, 15 senators would sit and transact business because the quorum for this house is 15 senators. If it's the National Assembly, the quorum is 50 MPs, members of the National Assembly. They would sit and transact business. But when there is a requirement for a supermajority, it's a supermajority of the whole house. Doesn't matter whether there's a seat that is vacant or not. And even if you go to the law and the interpretation of statutes and stuff, you'll find that a vacancy on a board or a vacancy in a house, for as long as that vacancy does not affect the quorum, that house is quorate to conduct business. The challenge of the quorate house now is to realize the threshold for passing a motion. And if you look at our constitution article, I think it's Article 121, addresses quorum. Article 122 addresses threshold. And I believe that for us to be able to ventilate this question very well, I would associate myself with Senator Osoti to request that the current motion, which is really putting us in a straitjacket, be withdrawn, and we be allowed to ventilate this thing the way we did in Kericho 2, whereby we hear the entire motion and then the PO is placed after people have understood the issues. Then we vote first on the PO, and if it is sustained, the governor is acquitted. If it is defeated, then we go and vote on the individual, on the merits of the impeachment. But right now we run the risk of the PO being thrown out. Listen to the mood of the House, we discuss, we talk. PO being thrown out, and then we shall be subsumed, we shall be forced to go into that motion and then vote without consideration of whether the thresholds required for the motion to be in this House to give us jurisdiction to address that motion was there. So, Speaker, that either we amend this motion or we withdraw it and redraft it, because given the straitjacket I find myself in, I'm persuaded to defeat the motion, yet is that he has been dragged here through the window, not through the front door, as the majority leader put it. Then we still have the opportunity to listen to that argument in detail, and I hoped that this particular thing should have come as an application and not as a PO, because really it doesn't fit the description of a PO. But since we have argued it, it looks like an application for dismissal, and we could look at the application for dismissal